Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is Smart TCG, and today I'm going to be going over my top 10 best decks in the Scarlet and Violet Obsidian Flames format. We're going to be starting at number 10 and then going all the way up to number 1. All the deck lists will also be in the description and comments as well, so make sure to go check those out. Let me know what you think of this tier list, like if you agree or if you disagree, and let me know if I missed anything. With that being said, we're going to be giving away a booster box at 5,000 subscribers, so make sure to click that subscribe button as well. But anyways, let's hop into it here, hopping into number 10. Alrighty, hopping into number 10 here, we have Miraidon EX. Now, this is a deck that has been gaining quite a bit of popularity after, most notably, Andrew Mahone and Sajin Park both saw success with this deck at the 2023 World Championships. I actually had some time to sit down and play the deck, and it's actually really good. The ability to turn one Photon Blaster or Lightning Rondo paired up with the ability to Judge Path or Iono Path is incredibly powerful right now. What it loses in matchup spread, it does gain in consistency and aggression, which is what makes it one of the better decks as of right now. I think the deck is actually pretty cool. However, it sometimes does struggle to its own paths occasionally, especially if the opponent puts it down early, which can sometimes hinder it. However, Path is just such a good card right now. I feel like this deck needs to play it, and I think it definitely deserves its spot on this list. Hitting fast and also having a disruption card in the deck really is what makes it work so well. With that being said, I think it's a strong deck as of right now, and it's definitely something that I would consider for upcoming tournaments. When you hit your electric generators, it's pretty difficult to beat. All right, let's hop into number 9. Up at number 9 here, we have Palkia V-STAR. Now, Palkia V-STAR is a deck that hasn't necessarily gotten a whole lot of talk recently. Cyrus Davis most recently got 9th place at the World Championships with a list very similar to this, and I think that it does deserve its spot on this list. I think it has decent matchups across the board. The only issue that it sometimes can run into is when it falls behind, it struggles to catch back up. It's pretty much one of the most tempo heavy decks in the format. When you take that early lead, it's really difficult to give it up, as you have cards like Cross Switcher and Boss's Orders to continuously target down the Pokemon that you want to bring up, and you just have great control on the board. However, cards like Path to the Peak can slow this down, which is why we have 3 Lost City. Cards to consider could be a 4th Lost City, or even something like a Lost Vacuum if you really want to make sure that something like Path is not going to hurt you too much. Overall, I think the deck is incredibly consistent, actually one of the most consistent decks in the format, which is what I think makes this deck just so good. It pretty much does what it needs to every single game. It's a simple strategy, and it's one of the most aggressive decks in the format. Palkia, I think it deserves its spot, and I think it's actually really good right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if it slowly moved its way up this list in this format. Hopping to number 8 here, we have Charizard EX. Now, there are multiple ways to play this, whether or not you're playing just the Arceus and the Bibarel, or just the Arceus and the Pidgeot. We were also seeing the Lost Zone engine as well being played in it, and as of right now, I actually have almost all those put together. We have Arceus, Pidgeot, and also Bibarel, just no Lost Zone engine, and I think that this is one of the best ways to play it. We technically do play Colress's Experiment, so the Lost Zone is something that we can't really utilize in this deck, but we're mainly going to be using Colress as just a powerful draw supporter. Some people might be wondering, hey, why aren't you playing something like Professor's Research? And the reason is that since your deck plays so many evolutions and only one Super Rod, Professor's Research can oftentimes hurt you by discarding important resources that you're not going to be able to get back. The strategy of this deck is to use Starbirth early on paired up with Quick Search to get Charizards onto the field, to then use Burning Darkness. Burning Darkness deals a relatively respectable 180 damage. However, it deals 30 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. So your goal is to give up a couple prizes in the early game and then use Burning Darkness over and over for massive amounts of damage. You also have cards like Radiant Charizard as well to disrupt the prize trade, to often force them to go down to just one prize card, making it so something like Burning Darkness deals way over 300 damage, which is really when this deck gets difficult to beat. I have included a card called Jock that hasn't been seen too much in deck lists, as I think it's really good to be able to search your deck for up to 2 evolution Pokemon and just put them straight into the hand. Getting Arceus V-STAR out can sometimes be a challenge, so making sure that you have as many outs as possible to the Arceus V-STAR just seems correct. Overall, this list I've been really enjoying, and I think it deserves its spot on the top 10 list. And I think over time, as we start to see more Charizard lists come out, the list will get more refined. But as of right now, I think this is what I would be playing if I was playing Charizard to a tournament. All right, top into number 7. Hopping number 7, we have an old face here with one new trick being Lugia V-STAR. Lugia V-STAR remains one of the most powerful decks in the format with its summoning star, allowing you to get out multiple Archeops to then power up Pokemon like Tyranitar, Yveltal, Lugia, and also Stonejourner. Now, there is a brand new card in this list. It's technically not brand new as it's been out for quite some time. However, it's finally seen play, and that is Cobalion. Now, Cobalion has a really cool ability you're not going to be using as attack, but its ability, Justified Law, your basic Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to the active dark Pokemon. Now, what exactly does this help out against? Well, it helps out a lot against Charizard EX. Charizard EX being one of the most hyped up cards to come out of the brand new set Obsidian Flames and expected to take up quite a large meta share in the format. You need some way to be able to one-shot Charizard. So Tyranitar with 4 single strike energy only deals 320, which is not enough, which means that something like Cobalion is going to help you get over that hump, making it so that you can deal over 330 damage, taking knockouts on Charizards and being able to keep up in the prize race. The only problem with this deck is consistency sometimes, as you do struggle occasionally to things like Path and also just getting double Archeops in the discard pile, which is why I've opted to play 2 Professor's Burnett in this list instead of 1. I decided to cut a research for the Professor's Burnett because this deck does sometimes lose to just prizing the Burnett. On top of it, with cards like Spiritomb becoming more and more popular, things like Lumineon are going to be harder to use, which means that you just naturally want to draw into something like the Professor's Burnett more often than not. So as of right now, I think that Lugia is still very, very strong, and especially with all the Lost Box hype as of right now, I would not be surprised if this deck slowly moved its way up the list, as it does have a relatively decent Lost Box matchup. Lugia, still kicking it, definitely one of the best decks and still one of my favorite decks in the format. All right, let's hop into number 6. Hopping number 6 here, we have Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao has made its way onto the list here, performing very well recently in online tournaments, as well as doing relatively decently at the World Championships. Your strategy is to use cards like Irida to search out rare candy to evolve your Baxcalibur, which allows you to attach as many water energies as you would like to your Pokemon, activating Hail Blade, which deals 60 times 60 for every water energy you discard. Shivery Chill, one of the best abilities in the game once in your turn, just allowing you to search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and putting them into your hand is absolutely phenomenal. I've decided to opt for the heavy PokéStop version, as I think it's the most consistent way to play this deck, maximizing your chances of finding cards like Battle VIP Pass, Ultra Ball, Nest Ball, and just cards you need early on to get going as consistently as possible. One of the issues with this deck, I do think, is its early game, which can be incredibly shaky, as this deck does play heavy counts of cards you don't necessarily want to draw on that very first turn, like Cross Switcher, Superior Energy Retrievals, Canceling Clones, and more, which can sometimes lead to some issues. However, if you are able to get up things like the Bibarel and a Baxcalibur or 2, your deck is pretty much unstoppable. It's just getting to that point that can sometimes be a little bit difficult. When it sets up, it's pretty difficult to beat and has good matchups against mostly everything in the format. It's a good deck, and I think that it's going to continue to perform well. It just kind of comes down to whether or not you can set up as consistently as you would like. All right, let's hop into number 5. Hopping number 5 here, we have Fusion Mew Vance Kelly's list that he used to win the Pokemon World Championships, and the deck is still kicking it. One of the most powerful decks in the format as of right now, being able to turn one Melodious Echo or just use the Meloetta throughout the game to disrupt the prize trade is absolutely incredible. You have Mew VMAX here with that Cross Fusion Strike, being able to copy any of your Fusion Strike attacks, and also arguably the best engine in the game being Genesec's Fusion Strike system, drawing a card up to 6 for every Pokemon that is a Fusion Strike on your side of the field. So if you have 6 Fusion Strike Pokemon, you always get to draw up to 6, and you can use his ability once per every Genesect, meaning that if you have 4 on the field, you can use 4 Genesects in one turn, pretty much allowing you to burn through your deck incredibly quickly. This deck is absolutely phenomenal still. The only problem is that I think a lot more players are going to be teching in things like Spiritomb and also Drapion moving forward, which is going to potentially cause some issues for this deck. However, if you can dodge those cards, it's definitely one of the best decks in the format. And I think if Spiritomb and Drapion don't exist in the upcoming tournaments, I think that Mew might just be the best deck in the format still. However, it's at number 5 just because there is that threat, and those cards are very easily accessible, you know, for players to put in their lists. But as of right now, deck is really, really good, and Mew just keeps dominating. It's amazing. All right, let's hop into number 4. Hopping number 4 here, we have might be a surprise to some people, Urshifu Inteleon. Now, this is a deck that has been picking up tons of steam recently due to Lost Box's rise in popularity. With Lost Zone Giratina, Lost Box decks, as well just in general like Kyogre and Turbo Lost Box, rising so much in popularity, as well as decks like Gardevoir still seeing lots of play. Urshifu Inteleon is the best it's been in quite some time. I think this deck is still incredibly powerful with that artillery engine, allowing you to get all your Rapid Strike Pokemon out, and then you can use Double Gunner to put tons of damage onto the bench, which you'll be able to manipulate with Radiant Alakazam and also Meta Champ-B, allowing you to take extra prize cards and skipping turns. I think this deck is one of the best decks in the format. However, its early game can be a little bit shaky. Not being able to play supporter on turn 1 is often spooky if you're not able to find that VIP pass. However, if you are able to get off the ground, it definitely is one of the most difficult decks to beat. Facing down multiple Inteleon VMAXs with the ability to Cheryl, along with Rapid Strike Urshifu, and always the threat of them being able to take multiple prizes in one turn is just very, very difficult to deal with. So as of right now, I think Urshifu is still one of the best decks in the format, and I think it's going to perform very well in the upcoming tournaments. It definitely makes a good play. However, it does struggle sometimes to Mew VMAX, so if you can avoid Mew VMAX, I think you'll be just fine. But anyways, Urshifu Inteleon, it's a great deck, and I think it's much better than people are giving it credit for. All right, let's hop into number 3. Hopping into number 3 here, we have Gardevoir EX, a list that Tord used to get second place. I pretty much think this is the correct play, or the correct way to play this deck, and I've really been enjoying this list in my testing. Gardevoir remains one of the best decks in the format, with that refinement ability allowing you to discard a card and draw 2, along with Shining Arcana Gardevoir allowing you to draw 2 cards per turn, and then attaching any energies, any basic energies that you find there to your Pokemon. It also has Gardevoir EX's incredible Psychic Embrace ability, allowing you to attach as many Psychic energies from the discard pile to your Pokemon, your Psychic Pokemon specifically. So this deck has it all. It has consistency, the ability to one-shot anything, and most importantly, comeback potential with that Iono. I think this deck is a very skill heavy deck. For example, if you look at tournament placements and stuff like that, especially online, the deck doesn't perform incredibly well always, and I think that's a large reason because the deck is oftentimes difficult to play. When you have so many decisions that you need to make when it comes to what cards to refinement away, whether or not to attach energies off Shining Arcana, how to use your 1 prizers, when to use your 2 prizers and stuff like that, you do sometimes run into issues, or I would say less experienced players really kind of run into issues. So if this is a deck that you're considering to play for any major tournaments, put as many games in as possible with it, because it is a deck that is really going to challenge you. There are going to be many difficult decisions that you have to make, and I think that's a reason as to why a lot of players have been, struggling with this deck. But if you know how to play, it can beat pretty much anything, and it has one of the best engines ever created. But that being said, Gardevoir, absolutely fantastic deck, and I think it deserves its spot on this list. All right, let's hop into number 2. Hop in number 2 here, we have Lost Box Tina, a deck that has been seeing tons of success recently, and also has been talked about quite a lot about whether or not it actually is a good deck or not. And in my opinion, it's one of the best decks in the format. Being able to utilize Colress's experiments and flower selecting to get lots of cards into the Lost Zone, to then utilize that Mirage Gate to attach onto your Giratina, to then use Lost Impact, and most importantly, a little bit down the road, Star Requiem, being able to knock out any Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field, is one of the most powerful V-Star powers in the game. No matter how much HP they have, if they're in the active, they're going to get one shot by it. This is the list that I've constructed. I decided to not play cards like Snorlax, Hawlucha, and more, because those cards oftentimes brick your hands up in the early game, and I think that the best way to play Lost on Giratina is just fully committing to consistently getting Lost Impact as quickly as possible, which is why I've decided to opt for a triple Pokegear as of right now. No water energies as well, just because I'm focusing once again a little bit more on consistency. So I just kind of want to make sure that I'm not drawn into water energies when I need a grass energy or a psychic energy onto my Giratina. I'm not drawing into water energies when I need a psychic energy on, my Sableye and stuff like that. So I just think that playing a heavier count of the other energies and just kind of not focusing on Greninja, because admittedly Greninja is kind of a difficult thing to pull off with this deck because it does sometimes struggle with consistency. So really focusing on just the 2 energy types along with the jet energy, I think is the correct way to go as of right now. Anyways, Lost Vacuum, an incredible deck still, and I think that it is going to perform very well as long as it sets up. When it sets up correctly, it's pretty much unbeatable. However, getting to that point can be a little bit difficult, which is why I have decided to build this list in the way I have. It's a great deck, and I think it's going to continue to perform exceptionally well. All right, let's hop into number 1. Hopping into number 1 here, for disclaimer, we have just Turbo Kyogre and Turbo Lost Box in general. I'm just going to say that I didn't necessarily want to put Turbo Lost Box and also Turbo Kyogre as separate decks. I just think that the Turbo Lost Box engine as a whole is currently the best deck in the format, and my preference is Turbo Kyogre as of right now. Kyogre is absolutely fantastic at helping out against a little bit more difficult matchups that Turbo, just without the Kyogre, might struggle with, like decks like Lugia, VSTAR, Arceus, and more. Overall, this deck is absolutely fantastic, being able to use Colress and Flower Selecting along with other cards like Lost Vacuum and Force Seal Stone to be able to get as many cards in the Lost Zone as quickly as possible, to then utilize things like Dragonites, Dragon Gale, just to be able to put tons of pressure on the opponent as quickly as possible. Turn 2 Sableye is something that is possible with this deck as well, and this deck just has so much going for it. It has the ability to play like a turbo deck, and it also has the ability to slow down and set up a massive Aqua Storm towards the end of the game. I've also decided to play Pidgeot V in this list. Pidgeot is absolutely fantastic because there are some matchups where you don't actually want to put down something like that Dragonite V, but you want to get use out of that Force Seal Stone, which is something that the Pidgeot allows you to do, allowing you to put down the Pidgeot and then attaching the Force Seal Stone, using that Force Seal Stone effect, and then using Pidgeot's ability, which puts it back into the deck, which is really, really good. There are some matchups where if you have to bench down a 2-prize Pokemon just to Force Seal Stone and you can't get it off the field, there are some matchups, especially like Lost Zone Giratina, that can get very scary, as they will most likely be able to capitalize later in the game on that 2-prizer being on the field. This is a list that Ryan Harris most recently used to win the Late Night Series, and I do think that Kyogre in general is the best deck in the format. One issue that it does run into, especially in best of 3 formats, is that it can run into time constraints. I think a lot of its results right now are a little bit skewed because of the fact that most of these, online tournaments, league cups, league challenges, etc., are best of 1 until it cuts to top 8. And I think Kyogre is a much better deck in best of 1, but it still, I think, is the best deck kind of in format if you can just understand how to manage time with the deck, knowing when to scoop, all those kind of more important things. But anyways, Turbo Kyogre is great. I think it deserves a spot here, and I expect it to continue to do well at the upcoming regional championships. But anyways, that's going to do it for me today. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate all the support on the channel most recently. Let me know what you think of the list as well in the comments. The deck lists will also be in the description and also the comments as well. So that being said, thank you so much. This is SmartTCG, and I'll speak with you again soon. Peace out. If you're looking to improve your game, I do offer coaching on Manaphy. I was ranked in the top 16 ranked players in the entire world, and I know what it takes to reach the next level. I have a free coaching consultation if you're interested in booking that, to kind of figure out exactly what coaching is and whether or not it is something for you. I also have individual sessions, event deck list preparation, replay reviews, training plans, and more. So if you have any questions, make sure to book that consultation if you're interested, and we can kind of go over exactly what coaching is and how it will make you into the very best player that you can possibly be. But with that being said, thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate it. This is SmartTCG, and I'll speak with you all again soon. Thank you so much for the support. Peace.